Be bold. Be heard. Welcome to Unmute Your Mic with your host, Jessica Bell. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Unmute Your Mic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unmute Your Mic. My name is Jessica Bell. I am your host from Kansas City, Missouri, as always. And thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time, welcome. If you are returning, thank you for being a part of the Unmute Your Mic family. Before we get started, please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and anywhere that you would find a podcast. You can also go to our website, unmuteyourmic.org. There you can see our past episodes, as well as get caught up with who else we're going to have coming up. So please welcome my guest for today, DH. I am so excited to have you. I love meeting new people. I love hearing stories and just connecting with people that I probably would have never connected with any other way. So thank you so much for agreeing to be on my podcast. Please introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about you.
Yes. Thank you for having me, Jess. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Dionne Halsey. I'm the owner of 1513 Promotions. We specialize in social media management, content creation, and all of those things. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I got into my business because I'm a songwriter and an artist. So all of those experiences led me to starting my own business and focusing on digital marketing. And I'm a mental health advocate as well. Depression and anxiety are personal to me. I've gone through certain things in my life where I had the opportunity to learn from them, heal, and share my experiences. So I'm looking forward to getting into a lot of the conversations we're going to have tonight.
Well, thank you again. And so on here, when you say, I've gone through some certain things, that's the stuff I'm gonna dig into. Because I think it's so important. So often we see people as a finished product, but we don't see what they've gone through. And so we can look at someone and be like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. You have this business, everything is great. And it's not to harp on anything negative that's happened, but to encourage other people who are hearing this or watching to say, hey, you can overcome this too. So if you could just talk a little bit about some of the things that you've had to overcome to get you where you are today.
It's been a journey. So I would say I'm going to take it back to high school. I was in high school. And I noticed now, looking back, my 10th grade and my 12th grade years were very, very hard. And I knew about depression and mental health, but I only learned about it in health class, and that was not as thorough as the experiences that I would go through. So I'm trying to figure out who I am. I'm an athlete. I played sports. I played volleyball, basketball, and softball. I was a top athlete. I was captain, so it was already certain pressures that I was experiencing. Just being a teenager and being ambitious, I wasn't only an athlete. I was good academically too. Principal's honor roll, all of those things. Those were things that I naturally strive for. But my mom, she put the pressure on me too, as far as my grades. So I always had a full plate. So in high school, my grandmother's health started to decline. She had Alzheimer's. So I got introduced to caregiving. I would have to help out. My mom was the main caregiver. So that kind of put a strain in our relationship because she had to sacrifice. She was one of eight siblings, but the majority of the caregiving fell on her because we lived with my grandmother. So going through that in high school really took a toll on me. And I feel like I started to go through the depression and anxiety. I would get hurt playing sports. So that would add to the depression because I'm an athlete. I want to be out there and play, but I have to sit on this bench and cheer for my teammates. So I'm struggling with all of those things. And then on top of that, these were the early 2000s. I was struggling with figuring out my sexual identity. So all of the things that I was experiencing in high school, by the time I got to my senior year, I wanted to end my life. Things were just so. I had one of those households where everyone loved to come over, but sometimes I would secretly wish that I could go somewhere else. That I had that safe space. Because when you have company and guests, sometimes you put on a show at your home, or the people in your house put on a show, but that's not real life. So I was going through all of these things and not really being able to explain what I'm going through, but I knew that I felt different. And after I finished high school, I just felt lost. I felt overwhelmed. I felt exhausted. So I decided to go away to go to college. I went out of state in Miami. Um, I had a scholarship to play volleyball. At the last minute, I decided no, I don't want to play sports anymore. Which now looking back, that was depression. Um, but I decided I'm just going to focus on academics. I went down to Miami. I only lasted for a semester. Um, I had a breakdown, a really, really bad breakdown. I ended up coming back home. My mother was going through her own mental illness because she was separated from my grandmother. My grandmother was in a nursing home at this point. So I couldn't really go to her, or I would try to go to her, but she was so overwhelmed with her own stuff. So I just felt lost. And it just built up to the point where I was just like, forget life. Nobody cares about me. I don't really have any support. I decided to drop out of school. And that made things even worse for me and my mom because she wanted me to finish school. I was just tired. I didn't have anything left to give to anyone. Um, like I said, I was exhausted. And at that time, nobody could really understand how I was feeling. But the change, it was definitely there, but everybody had their own stuff going on. So, it was up to me to figure it out. And I ended up being placed in a psych ward because I tried to take my life. Um, but that experience really, really changed my life. I'm gonna stop right there because I don't know if you want to jump in, but yeah, the psych ward really, really changed my life for the good.
For the good. Okay.
Yes.
How?
It's crazy how we have these expectations for the people who we know, we love, and who are closest to us, and people who have certain titles in our lives. You think family, you think parents, that means automatically that they're going to be there for you. But life taught me, specifically, this stay in the psych ward taught me that you never know who's going to be sent into your life to send you a message, to bless you, to help you, or support you, or uplift you. And I was in a psych ward with drug addicts, um, people who had very severe mental illnesses. I'm talking schizophrenia and things of that nature. But one thing that they all did was rally around me because I was like the youngest person there. And they felt like my future was so bright. They couldn't believe certain things that I was going through. But the group therapy, that was life changing because it exposed me to other people's situations. And it made me feel like I'm not going to diminish the issues that I have, but to hear what other people are going through, I'm like, whew, I have to dig deep, you know, feel how I feel, but also focus on the positives because there's some things going on in this world that you just look at people like, how are you still here? You know? So that situation just really taught me to know that I'm not alone and also recognize that you always have help and support. It just might not be from where you think it is. Or where you think it should be, but you always have that. And I just carried that with me.
Yeah, I love that because there are a lot of people who often do feel alone, but it's because they may be looking at a specific person to fulfill them or to bring them this completion. And I think when you said, you think it might be family or you think it might be friends, but it may be that unsuspected person or in that situation that you didn't think you were ever going to be in, to find people who are actually going to help you. And so
Absolutely.
when you ended up leaving that the psych ward, what were your next steps from there? How did you start to rebuild your life?
Whew. Well, during that time, my mother's main focus was, what are you going to do with your life since you decided to drop out of school? So one thing that I realized in the past, I didn't really have a lot of stability because I just didn't have time because I had certain pressure. I wanted to go to therapy, but I had to get a job. So it was like, how am I going to make time for this and that, being that young? So I actually started working at Best Buy just to start making my own money because my goal was to get a car, get a place. So I started working, which working consistently brought along new challenges and but also, more relationships. But I just started working and really, really getting to know myself and really stand in my power and stand up for the things that I wanted to do with my life and be unapologetic about them because I knew what I wanted, but I faced so much. I faced a lot of challenges just because it wasn't what my mom wanted for me. So it was just like, I know what I want, but you're not listening to me. Um, but I started working at Best Buy and I actually interned with a independent label. So I started getting closer and closer to music and my passions when it comes to songwriting. Um, and I got to learn up close and personal the things that I was going to school for because my major was business management. So I started doing that stuff hands on. I started writing. I started recording because I was just like, I just want to be behind the scenes, but nope. I started recording, started traveling to meet people. So I really started building my identity. I came out over time as a lesbian. So it was just really time for me to learn who I am and be who I am.
And in finding your identity, in operating in what it is that, you felt like you were called to do, how did that affect the relationship with some people that you in your family, like your mother? Like, did she come around or was it just like the relationship kind of had to be separated?
It definitely had to be separated. My mom at one point put me out. So that was tough. But over time, because I was relentless with who I was, she came back around and she was more accepting of who I am because it wasn't going to change. And I kind of gave her the ultimatum like, if you want me to be around and a part of your life, because we went through the separation periods, just because I couldn't predict how our interactions would go, whether it would be a healthy interaction or unhealthy. And my family would be like, oh, Dionne's rebellious. And it's like, no, I just protect my peace. I do not go where I'm not wanted or I don't feel comfortable. And if certain things that you don't agree with are going to constantly be a subject, I'm definitely not going to come around, especially if it's detrimental to my mental health and my peace. So I set those boundaries, not knowing that's what I was doing. But I was always good at setting boundaries. But over time, I think that my mother, the longest we went without talking was for like over a year, because I had set that boundary very hard. Sometimes we set boundaries, but we're a little flexible with them because we love whatever the circumstances are. But it got firm, and after that, when we came back together, things definitely improved, because I think that she realized, well, dang, she was serious. You feel me? She's just like, oh, she's serious. If I can't get with this, she's not coming around. And you try to compromise with people, but I can't compromise myself more than somebody else is willing to, beat me. Or I'm not gonna be happy with who I am and the things that I'm doing, trying to please other people.
No, that's real and that's true. And sometimes it is hard when it is family and when it's people who are very close to us. And it's like, hey,
Yes,
I can't compromise myself anymore to meet you where you're at, because that does lead to depression and a lot of other things because you're not operating in your true identity. And so I definitely
absolutely.
understand that. So why is it that you're still here? Why, after all the things that you've gone through, things that could have, or would have, should have, maybe even taken you out, why do you think you're still here? What is your purpose?
I know that a part of my purpose and a part of the reason why I'm still here was to take care of my mom. So my mom recently had a major stroke in 2020, which was the craziest times because that was like peak COVID. She had a stroke 3 days after Mother's Day. And it was interesting because we had a conversation, and I said to her, if I was to close my eyes today and tomorrow and that be it, I would be happy with my life. So we were having one of those deep conversations, and next thing I knew, 3 days later, she had the major stroke. She has a pacemaker now, feeding tube. So she had to learn how to do everything all over again. Um, but we are 2 years into her being back home. So I always reflect, like, I grew up, my grandmother went through what she went through, and we had to pitch in. So I definitely am a firm believer that a lot of the stuff that I went through, even as far as the negative parts of our relationship, I feel like we went through all of that way back then to lead us to now, where we have to lean on each other. I'm taking care of her, but this new life has given me motivation and a focus that I never had before, because when you have certain responsibilities, you move differently. So, at first I was scared. I was scared as I don't know what, just because of the medical side of things. I didn't know what to expect. Um, but I knew that I would be blessed. I knew that I would have support. I knew that she would, because she's a very lovable person as well. Um, so I definitely feel like a part of my purpose is to care for people, whether it be physically, verbally, whether I'm doing a motivational speech or I'm sharing a video about an experience, or, speaking in public about mental health. I know that it's always in my purpose to give back in a form of care, and just sharing what I can to motivate people, because everybody goes through certain things. And like you said earlier, we do a good job at looking like we have it together. But in those moments where you sitting still, you have those thoughts. I know that I was definitely meant to do so much more with my life, and I still have a lot to do. I still want a Grammy as a songwriter. So God, like, I'm gonna keep you here and get you back to those goals, because you have gone above and beyond and you served. But keep on serving.
And I think what's beautiful about it is that, you know, in a sense, we do have it all together, but it's in a beautifully broken kind of way. And so
Yes,
it's the pieces, it is the pieces, the good and the bad, that form who we are. So when people do see the finished product, you know, they don't always know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but you
right.
literally wouldn't be you today, right now, if you hadn't gone through every single part of your life, the good and the bad. You know, so
Absolutely.
I do think that, you know, that's why it's so important to share our stories, and so that there are other people who are listening that maybe can identify with one or all or some part of the story and say, well, if she can go through this and can be sitting here and talking about it, you know, then maybe I can get to that place too.
Exactly.
So let's fast forward a little bit to where you are now. You said you have a business. Can you talk a
Yes,
little bit about your business, what your business does, and what made you decide to create it in the first place?
absolutely. So once again, on the journey, I had started focusing on being an artist full time, a performing artist. So, I started connecting with a lot of people as usual. I got more into promoting and marketing, and I was doing this for going on 2 years. Then I rotated to hosting events and planning events. I was still doing music, but I was more so doing songwriting. So I'm hosting a very popular event in Baltimore called Thursday Night Realness. And we're about in the third year of it. And I started getting sick. So I got diagnosed with severe allergies and asthma. It's called Samtus triad. So I also have nasal polyps. So these nasal polyps grow. I have to have surgeries to get them removed. But for like the first year, nobody knows what's going on with me. So I'm not able to perform or do any of the things that I was doing because I'm just so sick. So while I was sick, one of my business partners reached out to me and asked me to promote her event space. So I started promoting this event space. And then she was like, oh, well, I need a manager too. So I was able to do the majority of the work working from home. So as I was doing this, I was like, okay, I'm promoting, I'm doing social media management. Huh. I'm meeting these photographers and video people. I have a lot of resources. How can I put this together? And I'm meeting even more people from the one opportunity that I started off with. So now other people are starting to ask me to promote for them. So I was sitting on the idea for a while, and I was just like, what am I going to call this? So I actually grew up at 1513 North Elmont Street in Baltimore, with my grandmother, my mother, and my aunt. And that address and that house is significant to who I am. So I was like, oh, you know what? 1513 Promotions is what my business is going to be called. So we do everything from advertising. I'm talking about digital billboards, all of that stuff, to social media management. I also noticed that people need content. So we do photo shoots, branding photography, promotional videos, commercials. We're like the one-stop shop for all of your digital marketing needs. Even if you need a graphic designer, we can provide that. Websites, all of that stuff. But I wanted to put together all of my experiences as well as my expertise and the resources that I had. So that was the reason why I was like, yeah, 1513 Promotions. And I'm looking forward to growing. Um, I have my clientele is definitely growing. I have a realtor, travel agent, mechanics, and I'm looking to grow to getting into those Super Bowl commercials and things like that. So yeah, it's up.
Well, that's awesome and congratulations, because that's definitely needed in today's world. Everything is so much social media, marketing, promotions. That's not going to go anywhere. If anything, people are
Exactly.
going to be
Thank you.
needing that more. And as somebody who like has a podcast, it is a lot of marketing and stuff that has to go behind it, and graphics and websites, and it's a full-time job. So that is
Yes.
that is an amazing business to have. Well, I've
Thank
so
you.
enjoyed this conversation. I love that I got to get to know you a little better, and you're so inspirational. I love your story. I love the fact that it is not perfect, but yet here you are living, thriving, and you're not just surviving. You're actually making a footprint in the world, and that is very important. Um,
Thank you.
of course. Before we go, can you take a couple minutes to speak to somebody who is listening? Somebody who maybe was in the same position as you, who says, I don't think I have anything to live for. I don't know my identity. Maybe people don't understand me. If you could take a couple minutes to encourage them, I think that would be very beneficial.
Yes. If you're listening to this and you're feeling down and out and you're in that dark place, I just want to say keep going. Life, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It will always be challenging. But the beauty in life is the adventure, it's the journey, it's the ability to be resilient and find a way to persevere through whatever the struggle is. The sun is always out. It might be a cloudy day, it might be raining, but that sun is still up there shining. The clouds and the rain just got out the way, but once they clear, guess what? It's back to sunshine. So just keep going. Know that you're not alone. Know that you do have help and support. Do not isolate yourself to the point that you trick yourself into thinking that you're alone. There's a lot of help and support out there for you. It might not come from who you expect, but it's there, and you should open your arms up and your heart up and your mind to receive it, because it will keep you going. It will be the fuel that you need to succeed. Just keep going.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for that. Real quick,
Yes.
how can anybody find you if they would like your services?
Yes. So you can visit 1513promotions.com. 1513 Promotions is on Facebook as well as Instagram and TikTok. It's at 1513 Promotions. And if you're looking for me, I'm at DH underscore the hit writer. That's DH underscore DAHITWRYTER. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Well, DH, thank you so much for telling your story. Thank you for having a conversation with me, talking to a stranger. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
You didn't feel like a stranger. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you so much. I
And
want to
you're
thank
doing a good
everybody.
job.
I'm sorry.
You're doing a good job promoting, because that's how I found you.
Well, thank you, girl. I might need to hire you, because this this is getting to be a little too much. So let's talk outside of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you so much.
Of course. I want to thank everybody for listening to another episode of Unmute Your Mic. As always, you can go to unmuteyourmic.org. There you can find out about our past episodes, but also today's episode. I will put all of DH's information there. That way you can contact her, use her services, send her a message, inspire her, ask her some questions. Just reach out to her. I love to create a community and a family here so that nobody ever truly feels alone, no matter what they are going through. Don't forget to be bold, be heard, and continue to unmute your mic. Thank you, DH.
Hey.
Thank you for tuning in to Unmute Your Mic. Be sure to tune in next time when Jessica takes her mic off mute as she continues her journey to find stories that inspire and uplift our communities.